With only 17 days before the Cybertruck delivery event, things are starting to leak, including the specifications of the Cybertruck, at least allegedly, an amazing off-road demonstration, and a really interesting twist on purchasing a Cybertruck. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. Before we begin, make sure you get yourself one of these with the Cybertruck coming. Where we're going, we don't need paint. It's available in the merch store along with a whole bunch of other Cybertruck themes, things like this tumbler. So let's start off with a bit of fun here. We can see a post from Dirty Tesla. It's reposting some other things. But anyway, the Hollister Hill climb is something that people have been talking about. There was a video that was released of the Cybertruck doing that a couple of days ago. And Dirty Tesla was helpful enough to give us this side-by-side comparison. So you can see a Jeep that's doing the same thing. So I'm going to start with the Jeep because a lot of people are saying the Cybertruck was having a very hard time getting up this thing, but I think this angle does a better job of just showing how ridiculous this climb is. So let's take a look at this first. All right, so starting out here, it's a obviously some sort of like a staircase, rocky sort of thing. You can see the Jeep is having a difficult time on this. I heard about this trail, and apparently, you know, there's warnings all over the place that you have to have your tires pumped down, have to have extra clearance. There's a likelihood that you're going to damage the paint or even the structure of your car. So that, you know, this is not for the faint of heart here. And of course, you can easily see here that this Bronco, sorry, I thought it was a Jeep, but I'm pretty sure it's a Bronco actually. They look really, really similar. But anyway, you know, a standard four-wheel drive ICE car is having a very difficult time getting up this thing. It is really steep, really smooth. You know, it's if you've ever been in California, very, very dusty. And so it's really hard to get any traction. And you can see that even with four wheels on the ground, this thing is just having a heck of a time getting up there. I've heard that generally speaking, what you want to do is sort of gun it and get as much momentum as you can going. There we go. Yeah. So maybe he does actually make it, but you can see he makes it. But the basic idea is you got to back up and you got to give it a lot of momentum and get yourself going to get over that first hill. So it's a significant challenge. And then while this is unfortunately the other angle, so you don't get quite as good of a view, you can see the Cybertruck doing the same thing. So again, you can see kind of stopping at the bottom and not getting that momentum up and not really hitting it at full speed, but really giving it a go. It's a significantly difficult problem getting up this thing. You can see that I guess the front left tire is really, really spinning and the rest are having a very difficult time. It's the kind of thing where even if you have access to all four wheels and you can, you know, individually torque vector these things, it's really, really challenging to get up there. And you can also see that the Cybertruck managed that bottom step without that kind of, you know, backing up and going fast and hitting it and getting some momentum. That is also a really big rock right there. Yikes. Pretty scary. So, you know, it's having a hard time getting up here, but this is also a significantly difficult challenge getting up. And I can see this guy getting out of the way too. And again, one of the problems if you have never lived in California is the dustiness of it because it doesn't rain that much. And so this stuff is just dusty and it gets on top of everything and makes it incredibly smooth. I've mountain biked out there and this kind of thing. And it's like, even if you have big knobby tires on the mountain bike, they just spin. You can't get any traction. So I think people are giving the Cybertruck a hard time, but it actually does a pretty good job. And again, one more time, just to look at this, look at the Jeep here. If we go back and start this up, you can see that, you know, it gets going in the same spot and then it's just like, it's just stuck. And the only way it's able to get up is to back up. Sorry, the Bronco. It looks like a Jeep to me. Anyway, I think it's a Bronco. Like, I'm not that up on four-wheel drive cars, but apologies for saying Jeep if I'm saying Jeep and it's actually a Bronco, because I know there's a group of people who will be like ready to shoot me for saying the wrong thing. But anyway, you can see that this is having a difficult time getting up there, and it really is only when he backs up, or she, whoever it is driving, backs up and get some momentum going that they're able to get over this first like kind of step here. And so there you go. You can see backing up and then getting a start on this thing and then getting kind of a little bit of a leg up on that. So anyway, you know, it handles it. I wouldn't say that the Cybertruck necessarily handled it better than this car, but it handled it as well as that. And so I think that's really cool. And especially when you start thinking about the fact that this vehicle, it weighs a lot. This is a heavy vehicle, and we're going to get into specs right now. Do you remember how nice it was to roll out of bed and your skin looked great? It might seem like those days are gone for us guys with 40 in the rearview mirror, but Tiege Hanley has skincare products designed to help us look our best and do it easily. Tiege Hanley has products that make it super simple to get healthy, younger looking skin, and I know what a huge positive impact this will have on your life. Whether it's for business or your personal life, great looking skin is key to the self-confidence we all want. A quality skincare routine is essential for keeping your skin looking more elastic and younger, forever and to help you look great every day. And that's where Tiege Hanley comes in. Their level 1 system provides all the basics you need with high quality: a daily face wash, an exfoliating scrub, an AM moisturizer with SPF 20 in it, and a PM moisturizer as well. And because Tiege Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers a great deal. Just click the first link in the description and you'll get 30% off your first box plus a free gift. Don't miss out on this amazing deal. Click the link and get started today. If you think, like I did, that skincare will be too difficult, rest easy. Inside every box, there's also an instruction card that tells you exactly when and how much of each product to use. And I really love this card. It makes it so easy to get great looking skin. I always thought it would be too much trouble and too complicated to have a good skincare routine, but Tiege Hanley has made it so simple, I actually look forward to using their products. Plus, it's amazing how good my skin's been looking since using their skincare system. Thanks so much to Tiege Hanley for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to click my link in the description to get 30% off your first box plus a free gift and start your better skincare routine today. And now let's get back to it. And speaking of that, here's an electric article with a whole bunch of specs. Sam Evans, the Electric Viking, did a fantastic video going through all of the specs in very excruciating detail and doing it in metric and imperial. I'm just going to stick to stupid measurements here because that's what people in the US use, and this car is being sold in the US, and I don't feel like converting everything right now. So anyway, you're going to get it this way, but I will leave a link to the Electric Vikings video. He goes into much more detail about all of this stuff. I'm just going to sort of touch on the main, the big picture points here, starting with the overall length, which is 18.6 feet, which is comfortably less than a standard 20-foot garage. So if you have a standard 20-foot garage, as long as you don't have like your toolbox and things like that, which we do in our garage. So we'd have to move that stuff, but we should be able to fit the vehicle within the confines of a 20-foot garage. So that is really interesting to start with. The overall height is 70.5 inches or just over 5'10", 5'10 and a half. I happen to be 5'10", and I remember standing next to it in Giga, Texas, and it was over my head. So just barely. So again, this is the medium setting. So obviously you can lower it, you can get lower setting if you want to by letting the air suspension down, or you could raise it up, but at medium setting, it's just over 5'10". Next up is the curb weight with 2 motors at 6670 pounds and with 3 motors at 6890 pounds. So about 200 pounds difference between the two. Interestingly enough, this was exactly what Scott and I projected based on the classes of the vehicle. There's 2 different classes that the Cybertruck can fall into, and we figured that those were gross, vehicular weight with loading and all of that kind of stuff. So one was going to be just under 7,000 pounds and the other one was going to be right at 7,000 pounds. So it looks like, more or less within a few hundred pounds, we were pretty close to being dead on about that. As you can see here, the tow rating is 11,000 pounds. I believe when they did the reveal event back in 2019, they said 13,000 pounds, but I don't think anybody's going to complain. 11,000 pounds is a very, very hefty amount of stuff to be able to carry. Next up are the bed length and bed width. And so you can see the bed length is 6 feet and 0.8 inches. So just over 6 feet. So bigger than the F-150 and certainly a lot bigger than cars like the Rivian and things like that. And the width is 51 inches or 4 feet and 3 inches. So it's a pretty reasonable size bed. And remember that you've got the tonneau cover or the rolling cover that comes down over it. So as opposed to most other vehicles, unless you purchase a third-party cover or something, you can actually lock up stuff. So if you were going to a work site and you needed an air compressor or something along those lines, you could put it in there and you could make it relatively safe. It wouldn't just be sitting out in the back of the truck waiting for somebody to take it, or a toolbox, or or groceries, or whatever it is that you want. But it's a more safe environment because you've got the cover that you can roll down, and you can do that remotely. You don't have to do it manually. Next up is the frunk, which I know has disappointed some people because it's smaller than the Ford F-150 Lightning, but it's still pretty reasonable. It's 7.1 cubic feet, and the weight capacity is 420 pounds. So you could easily put 2 of me in there and still have plenty left over in terms of the weight. I don't think you could fit 2 of us in there, but anyway, you could fit 2 average weight human beings in the frunk and still have enough weight. So that's a pretty reasonable amount of weight that you're allowed to put in the frunk. Again, it's wide and skinny. It's more rectangular. It's not as square, but it seems like a pretty reasonable amount. And it's got a lip. The last we saw, it has a little lip at the front so things won't roll out if you park and you open up the frunk. So that's really good. I think it's going to be an ideal thing for like groceries and stuff, even better than the back bed, because you can open it remotely apparently, and it will close remotely. And so when you're coming out of the store with your cart, you can like open it up remotely. It's waiting for you. You pile the stuff in, get in the car, close it remotely. You never actually have to deal with, we're closing it there, or you can reach up. There's probably a button or something like that to close it. But anyway, it should be a very, very useful frunk. The one that I have right now in the Model Y and the Model 3, the Model Y, I store my climbing shoes in there because my wife says my shoes stink. And so she's like, that's the place you should put your shoes, is in the frunk. So I do actually use the frunk on a daily, well, almost daily basis when I go climbing, rock climbing, and I leave my shoes in there. So that's great. So, you know, whatever it is, it's better than the back of the car because it's all open. There's not a trunk, it's a hatchback. So the air flows. And so she doesn't appreciate the smell of my climbing shoes. So there you go. They live in the frunk. So that's useful for that. But I predict that the frunk of the Cybertruck will be even more useful than frunks in current vehicles. And then we have headroom, front and rear. So 41.5 inches, 39 inches, legroom, 41 inches, and basically 41 inches in the front and rear. That's really nice for the rear. That means they have a lot of legroom back there. Shoulder room looks really nice. Hip room, I guess, is good. I don't know. I can't remember what the standard settings are, but certainly bigger than, you know, just a standard SUV or something like that, because it's a truck and it's much wider overall. And then the really interesting thing, we have no outlets in the front, so nothing in the front. And there's one outlet bank in the rear, so it has 3 plugs. 2 of them are 110 volts, so the standard things that, you know, plug lights in and stuff in your wall, that kind of a thing, and one 220 volt. So that would power bigger items like air compressors and stuff. Speaking of which, it does not appear that there is an air compressor in the Cybertruck anymore. There was rumors that that might happen at one point. That is not the case. And the F-150 Lightning has more plugs than the Cybertruck does. So in my mind, 2 110s and 1 220 seem like a pretty reasonable amount of power that you can get out of that. And I believe that the type of 220 volt outlet is also one that you can power other things off of, like large voltage things. So you might be able to, you know, potentially power part of your house or something, although they might also use the NACS connector, the Tesla connector that's there, and they might do that, but it also might be out of the 220 volt. But at least it sounds like it's something that's a possibility, that you might be able to do vehicle to vehicle or vehicle to house, that kind of a situation where you could offload some of the power in the battery of the Cybertruck to power things like your house, or to potentially power another electric vehicle to charge it up to a certain amount if there's an emergency situation. And just for reference, here is that photo. So this is the back driver side, the back left side of the vehicle. So you can see the 2 110s at the top and the 220 at the bottom. So overall, I don't think there's any huge surprises with this. I think the only potential big surprise is there are fewer of these outlets than some people had thought there were going to be. And there isn't an air compressor, although I don't think Tesla ever promised an air compressor. I think that was just things that people thought. And the bed is a little bit smaller than the original bed, but more or less in line with what people thought it was after looking at the vehicle and kind of eyeballing it and guessing. So it should be a very, very useful truck. And one of the versions sounds like it's going to be able to hit 500 miles of EPA range. I don't know whether that'll be like a 2-motor long range version or the 3-motor with extra batteries or something. There will probably be one that's in the realm of like 350 miles, and that'll probably be a 2-motor 350 mile, you know, base version or something at a guess. I think they're going to try to keep at least one of those under $85,000, so it has access to the tax credits. My guess, which is totally a guess, is that version would be around $70,000 to $75,000, and then you would get the, you know, all the way up to the beast mode, which would be tri-motor, 500 miles, probably kind of a plaid package where it's really, really fast to accelerate and stuff. And that could be closer to $100,000. So I think that's kind of the range we're looking at. I don't know which version they'll sell first. I imagine it will probably be the tri-motor, but I don't know if it'll be the big battery pack, because that means they have to have more batteries for it. So they might do a kind of mid to upper spec, but not the highest spec version of the vehicle. Then again, at the delivery event, for all of those influencers and everything who are going to be getting their Cybertrucks delivered right away, there's a good chance that they might give them the top spec version, which is why these people have been asked to pay so much money. There's rumors that they've been asked to pay over $90,000, more like $100,000 for these vehicles. So they're very expensive, but they might also be the beast mode vehicles, which they're releasing on purpose to get some press. And speaking of releasing and versions and all of that kind of stuff, that leads us to a really interesting post that came out yesterday evening, and that is the Cybertruck order agreement. And that's basically that you can't sell a Cybertruck within the first year. This sounds very much like what Rolex has done. Rolex, the watch manufacturer, they are so popular right now, especially their very popular watches like the Submariner and the Daytona. Those watches, they generally speaking will not let you sell for the first year. So you have it, you have an official, card and all of that stuff that comes with it. They know who you are. And if you attempt to sell it, they will come down on you and they'll sort of blacklist you and everything. And that sounds it sounds like basically that Tesla took a page out of the Rolex manual, and that's how they're going to be selling the vehicle. So let's take a read of this first and then talk about it. From the agreement, and if you want to look at the original agreement, you can pause the screen right here. So this is, this is part of their official agreement. So I just wanted to point that out. Anyway, from the agreement, you understand and acknowledge that the Cybertruck will first be released in limited quantity. That's fairly obvious. You agree that you will not sell or otherwise attempt to sell the vehicle within the first year following your vehicle's delivery date. Notwithstanding the foregoing, if you must sell the vehicle within the first year following its delivery date for any unforeseen reason, and Tesla agrees that your reason warrants an exception to its no reseller policy, that's crazy. So you have to ask first. You agree to notify Tesla in writing and give Tesla reasonable time to repurchase the vehicle from you at its sole discretion and at the purchase price listed on your final price sheet, less 25 cents a mile driven, reasonable wear and tear, and the cost to repair the vehicle to Tesla's used vehicle cosmetic and mechanical standards. In other words, depreciation on the vehicle. If Tesla declines to purchase your vehicle, you may then resell your vehicle to a third party only after receiving written consent from Tesla. You agree that in the event you breach this provision, or Tesla has reasonable belief that you are about to breach this provision, Tesla may seek injunctive relief to prevent the transfer of title of the vehicle or demand liquidated damages from you in the amount of $50,000 or the value received as a consideration for the sale or transfer, whichever is greater. And then get this, Tesla may also refuse to sell you any future vehicles. So not only will they take you to court and attempt to get damages for the Cybertruck, they won't let you purchase another vehicle in the future. So this is a do not mess with us type of thing that they're stating here. And of course you have to sign this before you can buy the vehicle. So it's not just a statement, it's part of the agreement that you're agreeing to. So they are really coming down hard. They do not want people selling this vehicle in the first year. So why is this the case? I can think of two reasons. The number one reason is, again, analogous to Rolex's situation. They don't want a gray market with people selling these vehicles for 2 or 3+ times the cost, right? So you buy the vehicle for $80,000, just whatever, just hypothetically, and then you sell it for $200,000. That's great. That sounds like a good deal to me. I would love to buy a car and then turn a profit for that. So they're clearly trying to stop people from even attempting to do this because they're going like, nope, you can't resell this vehicle. Some people have suggested that maybe what Tesla should do is soft pedal this and say that you can't sell it for more than you bought it for. But even with that, I have a feeling that Tesla doesn't want to do that because, of course, there could always be the official sales price, and then somebody just gives you, a Visa gift card for an extra $30,000 or something. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. You can always get the under the table extra payment. So I think they're just like, no, there will be none of this crap going on. We're not going to have a gray secondary market. We're not going to have people doing this. So that's the number one reason, and that's what I think most people have thought of so far. The second reason, and I think this is also important to Tesla, is they don't want anybody like Monroe and Associates getting their hands on this thing within the first year. Because of course, most of these teardown companies, certainly Monroe and Associates, has said that they don't have this. They don't have order number 25 or something like that. So they're not going to get a Cybertruck for a while. And I don't think Tesla wants these companies to get access to them within a month of the things going on sale. Person drives it around for a while and then they sell it to Monroe and Associates for whether it's equal price or they charge double, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. But whatever the case, I don't think Tesla wants people digging around and looking inside the vehicle. Now, will somebody eventually give Monroe and Associates the vehicle? They could do that. They could decide to do that. It's their car. They have the license to it. So yes, they could do that. But also if you're paying like $80,000 or $100,000 for a car and it's the new hotness and everybody wants it, it's going to be a pretty tough sale for Monroe and Associate or anybody else to go like, please give us your car. We promise to give you one in the future, eventually, and let us tear this thing down and break it apart. That would be a hard thing. I don't know if that I would be willing to do something like that. Will somebody be willing to do it? Maybe, it's possible, but I think that that will reduce the odds that any company will get a hold of this thing and be able to tear it down in the first, 8 months, a year, or something like that. And again, this this is ongoing, right? So not only for the people who get it on day one on November 30th, but if you buy the vehicle in March of next year, that means that you're looking at March of 2025 before you're allowed to resell it. So I think this is an ongoing thing. Obviously, when they ramp eventually and they're selling, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 of these a week, which is possible. I don't think they'll ever get that high, but let's say 1,000 a week. You know, when they're churning it out at a reasonable rate, then they'll get rid of this codicil as part of the agreement, and there'll just be a standard agreement where you can buy it and resell it. But that's going to be a year plus in the future. So Tesla's not particularly worried about that. I think they, number one, really, really want to stop the gray market. They don't want people reselling this thing. They don't want it to become this whole big brouhaha. It's a bad look for them. It's a bad look for Rolex. It's a bad look that, you know, people try to sell these things for huge profit after purchasing them, and it doesn't really help the company at all, and it just makes everything look bad. So they're trying to stop that. But I do think that they have a secondary reason, which is to stop the teardown of the vehicle, because they've got a lot of tech in there, and they probably don't want other companies getting a hold of that right away, because it's going to take Tesla a while to ramp this car up and get it to full production. And if somebody gets a hold of this on day one and can reverse engineer it, and they're a really good manufacturer, there's not that many in the world, but there are some places, China. Anyway, that company could, you know, potentially be only 6 months or a year behind Tesla if they worked really, really hard, if they have access to the vehicle itself. So I really don't think Tesla wants anybody tearing down the vehicle and taking a close look at it. So anyway, that's what I've got today. We've got really awesome video of the Cybertruck climbing Hollister Hill, which is really pretty awesome. So anyway, that's what I've got today. We've got video of the Cybertruck competing with four-wheel drive internal combustion engine vehicles on hills and trails in California. Very, very cool. We also have specs, again, alleged. We don't know this for a fact, but we have alleged specs for the Cybertruck, and all of them look well within the realm of reasonability for the vehicle. And then finally, we have what looks pretty confirmed, which is that the purchase agreement for the Tesla Cybertruck entails that you not sell the car for a year. So if anybody suddenly doesn't want the vehicle because they were planning on flipping it and you have a really early reservation number, I'll take it, because I don't intend to sell the car. So I'm going to use it. I'll use the heck out of it. So if you want to like trade your reservation number to me, that's totally fine. But anyway, in the meantime, this is all really exciting news, and we only have another 17 days to wait until the actual delivery event, and then everything will be revealed. In the meantime, it's a lot of fun to take a look at this stuff and to speculate about the future. As always, a huge shout out to my Patreon patrons, my YouTube channel members, and of course my ex-subscribers. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel in any way that you can. And of course, if you want to join any of the teams, just check out the links in the description. And if you're interested in a whole bunch of really cool merch, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. We have TeslaBot t-shirts, the Tesla meme t-shirt, success is a possible outcome, 4680 battery cells. All of that stuff is on t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, and on and on. So check it out. And finally, a big thanks once again to Tiege Hanley for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to click my link in the description and get 30% off your first box and have your skin looking great. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.